Hey, welcome back. In this episode, we're going to learn about Azure Traffic Manager. My name is Sushant Sutish, and I'm your trainer for this AZ-303 certification course. So, without wasting any more time, let's get into it. Microsoft Azure Traffic Manager allows you to control the distribution of user traffic to your service endpoints running in different data centers around the world. And the Traffic Manager works by using the domain name system to direct end user requests to the most appropriate endpoint. And the service endpoints supported by the Traffic Manager include Azure VMs, web apps, and cloud services. You can also use Traffic Manager with external non-Azure endpoints as well. And the Traffic Manager selects an endpoint based on the configured traffic routing method. And the Traffic Manager supports a range of traffic routing method to suit different application needs. And once the endpoint is selected, the clients then connect directly to the appropriate service endpoint. And the Traffic Manager provides endpoint health checks and automatic endpoint failover as well. This enables you to build highly available applications that are resilient to failures, including the failure of entire Azure region. There are different routing methods in Azure Traffic Manager: priority routing, performance routing, geographic routing, etc. So let's go through these one by one. First, let's understand priority routing. When a traffic manager profile is configured for priority routing, it contains a prioritized list of service endpoints, and the traffic manager sends all traffic on the primary, which is the highest priority endpoint first. And if the primary endpoint is not available, traffic manager routes the traffic to the second endpoint and so on. Availability of the endpoint is based on the configured status, which is enabled or disabled, and the ongoing endpoint monitoring. The priority traffic routing methods allows you to easily implement a failover pattern, and you configure the endpoint priority explicitly or use the default priority based on the endpoint's order. The second routing method is performance routing. The performance routing method is designed to improve the responsiveness by routing traffic to the location that is closest to the user. The closest endpoint is not necessarily measured by geographic distance. Instead, Traffic Manager determines closeness by measuring network latency. And the Traffic Manager maintains an internet latency table to track the round trip time between IP address ranges and each Azure data center. With this method, Traffic Manager looks up to the source IP address of the incoming DNS request in the internet latency table. And the Traffic Manager chooses an available endpoint in the Azure data center that has the lowest latency for the IP address range, then returns that endpoint in the DNS response. And the third routing method is geographic routing. When a Traffic Manager profile is configured for geographic routing, each endpoint associated with that profile needs will have a set of geographic locations assigned to it. Any request from those regions gets routed to that endpoint. Some planning is required when you create a geographical endpoint, and a location cannot be in more than one endpoint. Now let's look into weighted routing. The weighted traffic routing methods allows you to distribute traffic evenly or to use a predefined weighting. In the weighted traffic routing method, you assign a weight to each endpoint in the Traffic Manager profile configuration. The weight is an integer from 1 to 1000. This parameter is optional. If omitted, the Traffic Manager uses a default weight of 1. The higher the weight, the higher the priority. This table shows the Azure Load Balancer, Application Gateway, Traffic Manager, and the front-end door. And these technologies can be used in isolation or in combination as well. That concludes this lesson. In the next episode, we're going to learn about Azure Firewall. I will see you on the next one. Until then, take care.